2019 was a bit of a snooze fest for the ordinary filmmaker. There were very few notable cameras. I did some research to make sure I provide you with accurate information. Facts are important to me. One of the first sites I came across was from Digital Trends. I did not agree with their top 10 list. They're trying to appeal to everyone with their list. I'm looking through the lens of the ordinary filmmaker. As such, I disagree with most of this. But let's get into it. Digital Trends recommends the Sony a7R IV as their overall best camera. It does have some stunning features. Eye autofocus is absolutely amazing. It also has full sensor readout. I can get behind these features, but this is where I depart from the recommendation. You see, for $4,696 with the 24-105 lens before taxes and memory cards, it's at the upper reaches of the ordinary filmmaker's budget. That price will only get you 8-bit 420 internal, and autofocus still struggles a bit in low light. While better than the a7 III, most ordinary filmmakers need trustworthy autofocus all the time. Poor autofocus cannot be fixed in post. But we can't blame a duck for quacking. This is primarily a photographer's camera with excellent video. But if you are video-centric like most ordinary filmmakers, and you can afford this price point, why not wait for the a7S III? It should be out in the first half of 2020. But Digital Trends went on to state that the Panasonic S1 is the best 4K full-frame camera, even though the S1H is better in every way. For studio work, YouTube, where your subject is stabilized, where you can shoot with manual autofocus, yeah, I'd go with the S1H. Being able to shoot in 6K and punch in for 4K projects is a huge capability for successful YouTubers that can afford it. For the ordinary filmmaker, I cannot recommend either the S1 or the S1H due to the depth of defocus autofocus system. It just does not work when your subject is moving. It does not work for run and gun. If you are a Panasonic user, wait for the G8-6, which should be announced in the next 6 months. Digital Trends states that their best full-frame camera for beginners is the Sony a7 III. Sure, for beginners that can afford that huge price tag. It's a big ask. For beginners, I would not even recommend full frame. For the ordinary filmmaker, I would recommend the Fujifilm X-T3 or the Canon 90D. I would have recommended the Canon EOS RF if it had not crippled video features so much. But both cameras have excellent autofocus that works in low light. Both provide 4K, and the X-T3 goes so far as to provide high bit rates and H.265. If you don't own any glass, I'd recommend the X-T3 over the Canon for beginners. But if you take my recommendation, also consider waiting 6 months until the X-T4 comes out. The GH5 is also an excellent choice for YouTubers that are comfortable pulling focus manually. I'm still using the 70D right now with a 51.2, and I trust the AF so much that I leave it on all the time, and yet I've never had an issue. That's what I call reliable autofocus, and that's what the ordinary filmmaker wants. Digital Trends claims that the Sony RX100 Mark VII is the best point-and-shoot camera. Well, it is a very good camera, but it's not ideal for the ordinary filmmaker. I really don't see the point to a point-and-shoot camera when smartphones have come an awfully long way. They have a fixed lens, meaning it can't be removed, so it's not going to grow with you. I think the smartphone offers a better user experience, as they will go with you anywhere and do both photo and video well enough for the ordinary filmmaker and be at the low end of the budget. However, if you can handle a little extra weight and want to have a camera that will grow with you, get the X-T3. The camera is small and so are the lenses, and it will be had for a pretty good price, as the X-T4 is due to come out in the next 6 months. The Sony a7R IV and the Canon 90D were the most notable cameras released in 2019. The a7R IV in that it came out before the a7S III, and the 90D in that it released a camera, or the 90D that it came out without 24 frames a second. When Canon released the firmware update to provide 24p, or 24 frames a second, it did not provide 24 frames a second over clean HDMI. The market wants more. Many YouTubers believe that Sony relaxed in 2019 and that Canon continues to cripple its cameras by not offering 4K with full sensor readout. That Nikon is suffering from financial hardship and is not far from bankruptcy if they stay on their present course. 2019 felt like a gap year. Photokina took the year off. But 2020 will be significant. The Olympics are in 2020. All the camera companies are Japanese and want to show off their cameras ready for the 2020 Olympics. They want their cameras in the hands of photographers. Canon has already provided a detailed development announcement for their flagship camera, the 1DX Mark III. Shortly before, Canon provided their vague development announcement for the D6, with much less detail. Fujifilm will announce and release the X-T4. This will be the camera to watch for the ordinary filmmaker. The X-T3 was and still is a great camera in 2019. I almost bought this camera in 2019 but held off due to the lack of image stabilized lenses. The X-T4 needs to have IBIS in order to make up for the lack of these lenses with image stabilization. I shoot a lot of run and gun work, so stabilization is important. For my YouTube channel, not so much. The market was surprised by Sony's release of the a7R IV. Rumors indicated a camera was coming out, but many did expect it to be the a7S III. But Sony won't hold out for much longer. With every camera company coming out with new bodies and lenses in time for the 2020 Summer Olympics, plan to see the a7S III announced and released before the end of the first half of 2020. Canon still has 50% of the market share. Canon will release no fewer than 4 camera bodies in 2020, the 1DX Mark III, the Canon 5D Mark V, the EOS Mark II, and a mirrorless version of the 1DX. The 1DX Mark III has to deliver the capabilities announced in the development announcement without crippling them. It needs to have uncropped detail 4K video. In fact, I'll go as far as saying it should also offer 6K. The EOS R Mark II needs to exceed the Mark I significantly. It needs sharp 4K video without crop, 120 frames per second and 1080p dual SD cards for photo users. It needs to be a solid upgrade over the 5D Mark IV. I'd like to see the Canon EOS RP Mark II as well. They should provide the same capabilities as the 90D, but remove the lack of focus in 1080p and provide detailed 4K. But please, do your own research. I do my best to deliver correct and accurate information for you. But I'm not you. I cannot read your mind. Take what I've given you and do a little bit of research. If you have any questions about anything I've said in this video or any comments, drop me a note down below in the comments section. I strive to respond to all of your questions within 24 hours. If you'd like to receive a notification of new videos, click subscribe, then click the bell icon and choose all to get new video notifications. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a happy and successful new year.